Hey, what is going on, guys? This is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today I'll be reviewing the NOBULL Lifter. So admittedly, I've had a lot of asks for this shoe, and I had a pair a few years back, gave it away in an old move, and it has taken me a while to convince myself to spend another 300 plus USD basically on a new pair. So I finally did have enough sessions in them to revamp my mind on what they feel like when they're training. And so 3 pros that I have with this model is, number 1, if you want a weightlifting shoe that has a slightly more like old school feel to it, I see this as being a good option. Now, what I mean by that is that the shoe has a stacked leather sole construction. So the heel right here is built with a stacked leather heel. This gives you a little bit more ground feedback in my opinion. So when you're hitting the feet on the ground, you feel it a little bit more in this model compared to certain high density EVA foam midsoles that are used in some weightlifting shoes, and also like TPU at times depending on the build of the shoe. So if you like that more like old school kind of vibe and feel with your weightlifting shoes, and you're more prone to liking like a wooden heel, for example, I do think you will resonate with the NOBULL Lifter. The second pro that I have with the shoe is that its performance is pretty strong across the board. So you have a full rubber outsole, so you get a decent level of tread with the shoe. You don't have a ton of toe spring in this model as well, so I do like that when it comes to weightlifting performance, and you get a nice level of stability with this shoe. So for the most part, the shoe does a really good job, and honestly, if you are a big NOBULL fan and you're a recreational lifter and you just want a shoe for squats and your weightlifting focus sessions, this shoe should perform pretty dang well for your overall needs. My third pro with this model is the upper construction provides a nice level of security. So you have that super fabric upper through the forefoot and midfoot in the shoe, and then you have a heavier leather boot back here and a singular midfoot strap. The combination of all 3 of these do a pretty good job at locking down the foot, and for the most part, the upper tends to be pretty durable. I do wish the Velcro was a little bit more durable in regard to the overall strap and build of it. However, I'll talk about that in a second, but for the most part, the upper has done a pretty good job regarding overall durability and security. But now let's talk about a few cons that I have with the NOBULL Lifter. So 3 cons that I have with the NOBULL Lifter is, number 1, I find them to be overpriced. This model costs $299 USD, and that is not including shipping and tax if you have to pay those. And this model rarely goes on sale, and it's not sold through other outlets outside of NOBULL. So more than likely you're going to be dropping a pretty hefty amount for this shoe. And I get that there's a level of craftsmanship that goes into making the sole of the shoe. However, $300 USD I don't think is going to be worth it for most lifters. And honestly, if you're brand new to weightlifting shoes, or if you just need a pair for just general training on a weekly basis, you can find some pretty stellar models and save 100, maybe even 200 USD if you're looking to get a new pair. My second con with this model is its overall width. So if you have a wider foot, especially through the midfoot, and as you go into the forefoot here, you have a pretty aggressive taper. So I don't think this model is going to be the most comfortable for your foot anatomy. Honestly, I have like a medium to neutral / wider foot width, and I always feel really cramped in this model. To be honest, I have to either go barefoot or wear thin no-show socks when using this shoe if I want them to be even remotely comfortable. So for wider feet, I would say pass on this shoe because I don't think you're going to find them to fit very well for your overall needs. My third con with this shoe involves the strap construction and the sole construction. So the sole of this shoe runs pretty dang stiff. Even after breaking these in for a couple of weeks, I still have a lot of stiffness up here through the forefoot. So if you like a slightly more articulative forefoot in your weightlifting shoes, I don't think this is going to be the best model for you. Like, I like that there's not that much toe spring, and I don't think it really hinders performance, but for my folks who do really like flexible toe boxes, I could see that being a knock, so I try to keep that in mind when reviewing this model. Another knock that I have against this shoe regarding its strap construction is I just wish the strap was a little bit more aggressive with its Velcro, and I wish it came down a little bit more. So for low volume feet who have to really crank the strap far over, that way you don't have as much overhang. So I think that could be something that would improve future iterations of the shoe, is just if that Velcro base was extended a little bit, and if that Velcro was actually made a little bit more aggressive. I think that would prolong the durability of this strap and give you a little bit more surface area. But overall, those are my cons with this shoe. It's a fine model, but there are definitely some things to keep in mind before you invest. To break down the performance of the NOBULL Lifter, I'll discuss this shoe's performance for squats, weightlifting, and for accessory exercises. So in the context of squats, I like this shoe for the most part. So things that I like include, number 1, the traction you get with the outsole. I don't think you'll have slip issues squatting on different surfaces in the shoe, so whether you're squatting on rubber gym floors or wooden platforms, I don't think you'll slip at all in this model. I also like the stability of the sole. This model is not going to compress whatsoever, even at your heaviest squats, so when it comes to being stable and grippy, the shoe does a pretty good job. My knocks against this model for squats include its width. I like a little bit more width through the forefoot to really spread those toes and grip the ground, and I always find I'm a little bit limited with this shoe. In the context of weightlifting, there are once again things to like and things to not like about this model. So the things to like include number one, the upper security. So with this model, I have not had any overhang issues when catching cleans. So I do like that about this model. It locks you down pretty good. I also like that you do have a higher boot here. It helps lock down that heel as well. So I don't think you'll have heel slip issues either in this model. Another thing to like about this model in the context of weightlifting is that I like that there's not a lot of toe spring. So I can be a little bit forward with catching clean sometimes. So having a little bit less toe spring, I find, helps me recover a little bit better when it comes to standing back up weight. So I do like that about this shoe, and it's a subtle feature that I think if you're also kind of forward with your cleans and snatches at time, that could be a positive thing for you. This model has a heel to toe drop of 18.5 millimeters or 0.73 inches. So for most lifters and athletes, I do like that heel elevation because I feel like it's a good middle ground for most anatomical asks and needs in the clean and jerk and the snatch. Now, what I don't like about this shoe is that, number one, it can run pretty hot. So for longer weightlifting sessions, I think you'll notice that your feet are pretty sweaty in the shoe, especially if you're wearing thicker socks. And then also, once again, with that width, it's just not the most comfortable shoe to wear for longer sessions, on top of it already running pretty hot. And as an added con in this context, I do wish the strap was a little bit longer, especially for low volume feet. For accessory exercises, the shoe does an okay job. I think if you're doing more static strength work like leg presses and hack squats, this model will be just fine. However, if you're trying to do any form of walking lunge or split squat with some form of quad bias, or if you just want to leave on your weightlifting shoes for that movement for whatever reason, I find this shoe to be a little bit limiting just because the toe box runs a little bit stiff, makes it a little bit more uncomfortable. So it's definitely not the best weightlifting shoe for kind of like transcending and doing a bunch of different movements with outside of squats, clean and jerks, and snatches. Overall, I find this shoe's performance to be pretty standard across the board. There's nothing that really like wows me about this model, and there are a couple of gripes that I have with this shoe, much like most models. So when it comes to the price of this model, I've already discussed it in my con section, but you can expect to pay $299 USD. This model is primarily sold through NOBULL's store, and they rarely go on sale, so if you're looking to invest in this shoe, I would expect that you're probably going to spend at least $300 USD, like I have now twice on this shoe, which is very, very sad in retrospect, but they're definitely not the most cost-efficient model on the market, which is why I would suggest watching the next section to make sure this model really resonates with your needs before investing in them. All right, so now to answer the question, who should buy the NOBULL Lifter? So I think if you have a narrower foot width, you might want to look into this shoe. It might fit your foot really well. I also think that if you're a NOBULL fan, you will enjoy this shoe. It has that super fabric upper through the forefoot and midfoot, so it is consistent with some of their trainers, and it kind of has like that more like heavy duty NOBULL feel to it. I also think that if you like old school vibey weightlifting shoes, this shoe should fit your asks pretty well, as it's pretty niche with its stacked leather sole construction. Now, who shouldn't buy this shoe? Realistically, I think most lifters and athletes can get away with buying a shoe that's much more cost efficient that will perform the same as the shoe. This model is not going to be great for those with wider feet, and honestly, I find them to be a little bit overpriced for what they are. I get the craftsmanship once again, but still, to drop over $300 USD for a weightlifting shoe, I think there are a lot of good comparable models on the market, and honestly, if you're going to spend over 300 bucks, you might as well go with the Anta 2, which I think is a much stronger weightlifting shoe than the NOBULL Lifter when it comes to the context of clean and jerk, snatches, and squats. So when it comes to the sizing and fit of the NOBULL Lifter, I think if you have a narrow or neutral / medium width foot, you should be safe going true to size in this model. For my medium and neutral width friends out there who do like a little bit more room in your toe box, you might want to go up a half size. And then for wider feet, I would say probably just avoid going up a size and then just having to return this shoe. I would say probably pass on this model because I'm not convinced you'll have enough width through the forefoot and midfoot right here. So once again, if you have a narrower or like medium to neutral width foot, I think this shoe will do a better job at matching your anatomical asks and needs. All right, so when going over the weight, heel to toe drop, and insole in the NOBULL Lifter, for my size 10 model here, we have a weight of 19.25 ounces. The effective heel height and heel to toe drop in this model is 18.5 millimeters. That comes out to about 0.73 inches, and this model does have a thin foam removable insole. All right, now let's go over the construction of the NOBULL Lifter. On the forefoot and midfoot up here, we have that super fabric upper. It is very similar to the upper that you're gonna get with the NOBULL Trainer. Looking at the upper in the midfoot and heel, it is a little bit of a thicker leather. It doesn't have as much breathability, nor does this upper up here, which is why this model runs pretty hot. You have some NOBULL engraving branding back here along the heel as well. And then looking at the midfoot construction, you have a singular strap here. Once again, I wish this Velcro was a little bit more aggressive and it was extended down a little bit further. This is a singular leather strap, and then you have 6 core eyelets that go up with a thin NOBULL branded tongue. This is a tongue construction that is very similar to what you're gonna get in the NOBULL Trainer as well. So if you have ever worn those models, expect a similar tongue with the NOBULL Lifter. And then looking at the sole construction, we have that stacked leather sole throughout. It does run a little bit more stiff. It is very stable. So you're not gonna have compression in the shoe, but I would say expect like a 2 to 3 week break-in period at that, especially up here through the toe box. Looking at the outsole construction, we have a full rubber outsole. It's also pretty thick, so you can see that it is a decently thick rubber outsole, so I don't think it's gonna break down or fade too quickly on you, but it does give this shoe a kind of like chunky and stiff feel, which adds to that stacked leather. Once again, we do have a removable insole in this shoe, but that pretty much wraps up the gist of the shoe's construction. All right guys, that wraps up my review of the NOBULL Lifter. Overall, it's a good shoe. However, I think it's overpriced and overhyped. If you have additional questions on this model, drop a comment down below or reach out to me personally, whichever you prefer. And as always, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.